We begin with a store in the middle of the night, and nothing really seems too out of place. A young boy is seen walking around casually, but then he sees a bunch of people running away from the store in a sense of panic. He is unable to understand what is going on, even as two innocent young girls bump into him. That's when we see a robber coming out of the store with a knife in his hand, confirming that he was the one who scared everyone away from the scene. The boy doesn't want to get involved, but then the robber threatens the girls, so he decides to get into action and take him down. Unfortunately, our hero gets stabbed in the stomach, and even the robber runs away out of fear. The boy drops dead to the ground and the girls rush to him, but it's too late now. Our hero is happy to have saved the girls, but is upset that they are crying over his dead body. Suddenly, he wakes up, but cannot recognize anything around him. He is immediately hugged by his beautiful mother and a maid named Sylvia, both of whom are happy to see him wake up from his slumber. The women call out to him by the name of Cain, and this confuses our hero, but then he sees his reflection in the mirror and panics. It turns out that he has been reincarnated in a fantasy world as Cain, who is a little boy as of now. He cannot believe what has happened, and keeps saying that he is not Cain, but the women believe this to be a side effect of his slumber, which apparently lasted a full week. It doesn't take long for Cain to figure out that he actually died in the real world and has now been reincarnated, just like the light novels he loves to read. Now, Sylvia comes into the room and sees Cain checking his lower body. She assumes that he's wet the bed, so she takes off his pants, and this is a huge embarrassment for Cain because he's still thinking like a teenager. It's a hilarious sequence, but Hero gets a fair idea of this world from Sylvia. He's currently 3 years old, and who is the son of an aristocrat named Garm, and his wife Sarah. Cain also has a sister named Reincarnated, who's currently 2 years older than him. Garm also has another wife named Maria with whom he has two sons named Jin and Alec. Cain has been born into a wealthy family because Garm is in charge of the borders of his kingdom and keeps them protected with his army. We also learn about the Forest of Monsters, which is tackled by adventurers who use magic for their quests. This kind of talk gets Cain excited, but he's told to practice writing first. Now, Cain explains to us that his grandfather was all he had left in the real world, but even he had recently passed, so he doesn't have anyone to go back to. He accepts his life in this new world, but his intelligence takes everyone by surprise because he's still got the brains of a teenage boy. Cain is ready to become the next king, and he tells Garm that he wants to learn magic. However, Reincarnated says that he needs to be baptized for that, and this can only happen when Cain turns 5 years old. However, our hero picks up fire magic quite easily and starts thinking about all kinds of fantasies. He isn't able to control his magic at first, but manages to avoid getting caught by Reincarnated, who simply thinks that he's studying forbidden books. She starts tutoring Cain on magic and the history of their kingdom. Time passes by, and Cain turns 5, so he's finally taken for his baptism. Of course, he has to pretend as if he hasn't used magic yet, but spots something embarrassing in Reincarnated's magic stats. Cain avoids the drama, and then Garm explains that Reincarnated was granted level 2 protection by the god of magic. Basically, the magic levels range between 1 and 5, and they are given out by the 7 pillar gods. Cain and his family reach the church, and the priest begins his baptism. However, our hero is shocked to see that the 7 gods show up themselves to conduct the process. We meet the god of creation, Zenom, who goes on to introduce Cain to all the other gods. However, he learns something that's both hilarious and sad at the same time. Basically, the robber Cain stopped was actually supposed to trip and fall, which meant that his sacrifice didn't mean a single thing at all. On top of that, the robber was also sentenced to prison for his murder, so our hero continues to weep with sadness. However, the god of earth considered Cain's actions to be good deeds, so he managed to get him reincarnated in this fantasy world, where he already has a loving family. With everything said and done, Cain is happy with the net result, and then all the gods offer their protection to him. However, Zenom giggles before sending Cain back to his parents, so he wonders if there's a catch to his baptism. Our hero manages to excuse himself to check out his stats, and it's just as he had expected. All of Cain's stats are marked at level 10, which doesn't make any sense because the upper limit is supposed to be 5. Our hero wonders what to do, but then he finds an option called Status Conceal, which is a bonus feature included by Zenom himself. This allows Cain to hide his true stats, and then he goes to his parents so that he can show them something more believable. However, it turns out that he messed up the concealment process, and his stats are still unbelievable. Garm realizes that this could put a lot of attention on Cain, so he orders everyone to remain silent on the matter and keep this revelation a secret. Now, our hero goes back to his room and finds a book on summoning animals. He wonders if he will be able to bring out fluffy beasts and decides to test out his magic skills. Cain orders a cute companion, but ends up summoning a demon monster instead. Reincarnated and a cat girl are also in attendance, so the monster attacks them with rage. Cain decides to fight the monster to save the girls, but he is made to struggle as he still doesn't know how to use his magic. Regardless, our hero gives it his all and manages to banish the beast with his powers. This time, he survives the fight and he is hugged by Reincarnated and the cat girl. The next day, Cain makes a public announcement to everyone and says that he will become an adventurer to keep all of them safe. Now that he's made his intentions clear, our hero is told to study more about the world he lives in. Cain does this with ease, but gets a bit too excited one day and falls into the bosom of a redhead girl who is with a green-haired girl. She assumes that Cain wants to feed himself, but his butler clears the hilarious confusion and introduces the girls as Millie and Nina. They are supposed to be Cain's magic tutors, so he makes an introduction, but maintains that his true stats need to be kept a secret from everyone else. Millie is shown to be a bit nervous, probably because of the awkward landing from earlier, but Nina is calmer and more composed. She is shown to be an elf, but there's no time for chit-chat, as Cain needs to train his already impressive powers. The first item on the agenda is sword fighting, so our hero decides to flaunt his skills. The girls are amazed to see the level of strength on display, and Nina even teases Millie that Cain might be better than her. The redhead doesn't think this is possible, but she gets dominated by Cain during a mock duel, probably because of his God of War stats. Millie decides to take a break, so it's time for Nina to reveal her own magic tricks. The elf girl is at level 3, but Cain humbles her by showing off all his magical strength in an impressive, yet somewhat humble display. Both Nina and Millie wonder what is going on, because Cain is too young to have so much power, especially from all the gods. Our hero only adds to their confusion when he shows them an item box, which is considered to be an extremely rare item. The girls realize that there's nothing they can teach the young prince, and even state that the palace will not be able to last against his powers. Cain comes up with an idea and asks the girls to take him outside where he can be more open with his skills. This is a difficult choice for Millie and Nina to make, so they decide to ask Garm for his permission. The proud daddy is shocked to hear about Cain's progress on the very first day, but Sarah seems to be pleased with the results. Realizing that the palace will be damaged upon further training, Garm allows the team to go outside, but makes Cain promise that he'll be back before sunset. Now, the team goes out of the palace, and Cain is happy to explore the outside world. His first target is to attack a giant stone, and he does so with ease using his flames, but causes a giant crater. The girls believe that this would have drained his magic because the fire move was a lot more than simple intermediate magic. However, Cain reveals he has a lot more magic resting inside him, so Millie and Nina wonder how overpowered he might be. Suddenly, a fox demon attacks the team, but Cain manages to defeat it with a simple move. The girls aren't surprised to see this, and then our hero absorbs the fox demon into his item box because he wants to show it to Sarah and Riani. It's time to resume training, so Nina uses one of her searching spells to summon more enemies. She manages to trace the magic of the demon foxes near the team, and Cain is able to copy this skill without even flinching. The team takes down the fox demons in a matter of seconds, but one of them escapes into the forest, so Cain tries to follow it. However, the girls state that the forest is filled with demons and dragons, so he should wait till he's older before entering it. Cain checks out his stats at home and is amazed to see that he has grown even further. Our hero worries that he will be found out and executed, but forgets everything when Millie and Nina invite him to join a guild. The team meets a dog girl named Ruddy, who wags her tail after seeing such a cute little boy. However, a goon at the guild starts flirting with the girls because he wants to spend time with them. Nina rejects him and acts sassy, but the goon decides to behave like an evil boss. Nina is about to be taken hostage, but then Cain comes to the rescue and saves her. The goon angrily attacks Cain and even draws his blade, but our hero handles his moves with ease. He blocks the goon's blade and smacks him out of the guild, after which he takes care of the others as well. The girls thank their hero for his bravery, and then the trio spends the next 3 years together. Time flies by rather quickly, and the girls fulfill their contract. Neither of them wants to extend their contract with Cain, probably because he's much stronger than them anyway. However, Cain wants to thank them for their support and remembers that they mentioned magic bags. Our prince boy heads into the forest and decides to collect monster items for the magic bags. He comes across an ogre, but takes it down with ease and unleashes a fire blast that catches the attention of some palace guards. After that, Cain defeats an earth dragon and creates an even bigger mess. So Garm and his men charge into the forest, thinking that the kingdom is under attack. Cain disappears, but leaves his napkin at the scene of the crime, and Garm notices this while everyone looks puzzled over what happened here. Now, it's Cain's final day with Nina and Millie, so he gives them the magic bags as parting presents. However, he learns that his gifts are as valuable as national treasures, which might attract a lot of attention. After the hilarious exposition, Cain is kissed by both Nina and Millie, which makes him blush awkwardly. Later, he is funnily scolded by Garm for not being able to control his powers. Now, we see Cain fighting an overpowered dragon inside a cave, but he manages to defeat it with just a single blow. Our hero taps at the dragon and is surprised to see how easily he won the match. As expected, his stats have reached such a ridiculous level that he is now given the title of Dragon Killer. Of course, Cain still has to act as if he's a normal person, and he decides to visit the royal capital after 2 years of dominating the forest of monsters. He has to travel inside a carriage alongside Garm and Riani, both of whom talk about going to school, although Kane will have to wait for another 2 years before he can enroll. Garm mentions that there might be monsters up ahead, so Kane uses his tracing magic to sense any potential danger. He is able to identify a group of monsters attacking innocent humans, so he tells Garm about it. The noble daddy orders his men to rush to the scene, but Kane knows that they won't be able to make it in time. He decides to use his own wind magic to boost his speed, and he reaches the scene a lot faster than the other guards. Kane notices some knights struggling against some boar monsters, so our hero shows off his fighting skills. He defeats all the boar monsters in quick time, even using a flaming sword to take down their boss. We learn that the knights are actually protecting a princess, and Kane uses his healing powers to help all of them recover. Garm and the others reach the scene, and he points out that the carriage actually belongs to Duke Santana. Inside the carriage are Princess Telestia and Miss Silk, who act like damsels in distress. Kane decides to be a stud boy, and he uses his calming magic to make both the girls feel elated. As a matter of fact, they become so happy that they shower their love upon Kane in front of his own father. Telestia and Silk decide to take Kane with them, because even they are going to the capital for their debut. Garm watches on with disbelief as his son is taken away by two pretty girls who are of royal blood. Telestia tells Kane to call her Teles, and he has no option but to obey his princess. Things become a little awkward for our hero as the girls don't spare him any space, but then a knight shows up and says that the city of Renoma is up ahead. Now, Kane tries to make an escape, but the girls don't want to let go of them. Garm tries to help his son, but Teles and Silk say that they want Kane to guard them at night, in case a dragon attacks them. Garm has to obey their wishes but reminds Kane to control himself because he's only 10 years old. Our hero wants a big room so that he can sleep away from the girls, but they decide to sleep next to him instead. Kane doesn't get any rest because of his restless excitement, but everyone eventually reaches the capital after this. Teles and Silk still don't leave Kane, so it makes for another awkward moment when they are received by the vice captain of the royal army, Dame. Kane hands over the bodies of the fallen knights who lost their lives to the boar monsters, and they have an eventful chat. Our hero decides it's time to leave, but Dame tells him that the king has requested his presence. Kane can't seem to catch a break, as he is made to greet the king in front of his royal audience. On top of that, the king is informed about Kane saving both Silk and Teles from the boar monsters. Naturally, our hero needs to be rewarded, so the king makes him a baron, but this angers a man named Corgino. He opposes the decision but is scolded by the king because talented people like Kane should not be kept in powerless positions. Corgino is told to get lost, and then Kane accepts his peerage because he doesn't have much of a choice. The king isn't done with him yet, so he has a private meeting with Kane and Garm. Teles, Silk, and her father Eric are also there to thank Kane for his bravery. However, things get even more interesting as Kane gets engaged to both Teles and Silk. Once again, we're treated to a hilarious scene as Garm loses all hope and refuses to explain Kane sleeping with two unmarried girls on the same bed. With his new baron position, Kane will also be expected to stay inside the capital, and he will have to spend time with the girls as well. He tries to explain himself, but it's of no use, so he accepts the engagement only to face a funny confrontation with his family once again. What other hilarious surprises await our hero? Like, share, and subscribe to find out in my next upload. Take care and stay safe.